Everybody, as I just said below, and you guys were ahead of the game, already sitting here, that's a good sign. Today we're going to talk about what you can do to be more green in a world where British Petroleum, DuPont Chemical, as you change the TV stations, tell you how green they are. We want to hear today how we small business owners can green our organizations. I know that because we're start talking about that this morning's speaker. So Larry, business green and it's a local leader here in Westchester, and certainly his organization, Burson, was known to all of you. So I look forward to hearing from Larry. It's good hand for this morning's speaker.
I've never sued anybody, but I'm not going to start with them. Good morning. They don't have a clicker for the projector, so I'm actually not going to stand behind the podium. We'll use the table and kind of walk around, which is probably a little better. It's a little Phil Donahue style. I'm dating myself a little bit. The purpose of this presentation really is to talk about research that we've done to look at what the public thinks about this issue of green, what it means to them, because that directly impacts your businesses. If you're looking to get into a green business, if you're looking to green your business, what is the language that the public kind of responds to when they think about this issue is very, very critical. Just a little quick background about myself. I was raised in Yonkers. I'm very happy to be back here. It's a great city. I'm a proud product of the Yonkers school system. I graduated from Roosevelt High School. I went to college at Pace University in Westchester County. I got married in Westchester County, raised my children here, and I'm still involved tangentially with Yonkers, and very happy that they asked me to come down here to talk to you today. Burson-Marsteller is the quickest way I can describe it is we are the largest public relations firm in the world. We're a global communications firm. We have 100 some odd offices around the world. And anywhere where there is a city or somebody that needs PR help, there is Burson-Marsteller there being represented in that area. We are a firm believer in what is known as evidence-based communications. We want research, we want facts to back up what we say. And so what I'm presenting here to you today is the product of some extensive research that we've done over the past few years and have updated periodically, done by our firm Penn, Schoen, Erland. Some of you may be familiar with Mark Penn. He writes a column every week for the Wall Street Journal and has a column called Microtrends and had a book out called Microtrends. Very big believer in research. He was Tony Blair's pollster, Bill Clinton's pollster, most recently he was Hillary Clinton's pollster in the presidential race. So big believer in evidence and facts. This is part of a global survey that we did in the United States, the UK, and China. I'm focusing on the United States because I don't think a lot of the Chinese firms would mean much, most of the folks in this room. And looked at U.S. consumers, about 1,500 of them, 18 plus in age. You don't need an attorney's degree or a PR degree to know that green is obviously everywhere. It's being very heavily covered. Even the New York Times now has a green blog in a section that they dedicate to energy and environmental issues. And overall, consumers want to support environmentally friendly companies. This is a change from the 70s, the 80s, and really a real sea change in public attitudes about who owns that green space, and more people, the average person, is taking responsibility for this green issue. And green is potentially as it says here, a differentiator for companies, something that companies can use to differentiate themselves. But I caveat that by saying that only if, for the public, it doesn't hurt their wallets too much. So they're willing to go with you in terms of this green buy, but obviously because the economic impact of the current economic crisis recession that we're in is having great impact on how people view this subject. When we ask people, do you think the state of the environment in the country is headed in the right direction or is it the wrong track? As you can see, the majority of folks feel that from an environmental perspective, we're on the wrong track. And it's interesting to note, and I don't say this with any political affiliation in mind, that more Democrats are far more concerned about the environment than the Republicans. As you can see here, it's about 70% were Democrats, 40 in the grouping were Republicans, and the rest of independents are in there. But again, it's interesting because we look at messaging now. President Obama in there, they just recently passed in the House of Representatives a monumentous climate bill, which is going to have an impact on every single business in the United States, not every single home in the United States, depending on what comes out of the compromise between a House bill and a Senate bill, and what legislation is finally signed by the president. So it's something that, no matter what your political affiliation is to be mindful of and to note that change is coming. Again, very easy to see here that when we ask people, do you think the environment is better or worse shape than it was 5 years ago, the majority of people feel that the environment is in worse shape than it was 5 years ago. Now, part of that is also, I believe, the impact of the discussion. outdoors movie, Inconvenient Truth, and kind of all of this material that's being created on the internet, school curriculum. So for a while had left environmental issues on the side to be replaced by other issues that were hot topics. And now a lot of school children are hearing again about the environment. So all this kind of feeds in on each other. And so it's not surprising that you get a sense that people feel the environment is worse. And certainly when you have extremes of weather, again, perception is that there's some problems there. This is interesting to know because when we ask people, who do you feel is responsible for the green problems in this country, private industry was noted here as the top. So private industry, business. Now again, there is an anti-business climate. Right, wrong, or indifferent. AIG, financial collapse, a lot of these issues, again, remember, they feed into each other. So the atmosphere right now is very negative against big business. But big business has always been seen as a negative in terms of environmental stewardship. So here it's clear that private industry is number one. It's interesting to note that number two is individuals, people feeling responsible for their own actions, which is a big positive if you were doing some kind of recycling campaign, you're trying to get green messaging out there. Talking about personal responsibility is going to resonate with people because there's a certain level of guilt in terms of people feeling that I am responsible for throwing out that can. I am responsible for papers. I am responsible for going to Home Depot and buying some energy-efficient technology, which I can put in my house, as simple as change. The highest number on this chart is government. Politicians and government regulatory agencies, if you combine those, is 35%. If my math is correct. I wasn't great in math in my younger school days. But politicians and government agencies take a big hit here, which is interesting. Traditionally, this was not so. Traditionally, you would not see these kinds of numbers. But again, there is a lot of negative sentiment among the public in terms of how they feel about government, or how they feel about big business. And that probably has affected why private industry is top. Another interesting one to note is how low unions are. So if I am a union, from a messaging standpoint, I might look at some green messaging. Probably never would have thought of that if I'm in a union in terms of what's my messaging platform, especially in this environment. But green messaging may be one of those areas where I could see some advantages. In the last 5 years, how well have each of the following entities performed in protecting the environment? Government, horrendous. Very, very poor job. Private industry has done a terrible job. So there's a very, very high negative perception of both government and private industry. So if you have a company, you are coming into this equation with very, very low numbers. So if the larger your business is, the harder it's going to be for you to convince people that you are an environmentally friendly or an environmentally minded organization. And so that's something that you really have to work on. If you're a government agency, it's the same thing. Again, you have to look at the present environment that we're in. You have a it's an interesting times. You have a very, very pro-government stance by the President of the United States, the Obama administration, and by the Congress as it's made up now, is a very, very strong government sentiment. So there's going to be some positive feelings about government taking action versus government sitting on the sideline. But on the back end of that, you could see kind of an equal and opposite effect, which is people start to think that the government is getting too close to impacting my personal life, that they're involved with everything I do. And so you have to be mindful of that fact if you're a government agency. What this tells me is that there's a lot of work that needs to be done if I'm a government agency. And I would have to work twice as hard to get the message out that I can protect the environment. And not just your traditional government entities, but that are involved in the environment, but any government agency, yes.
Just a question. With the 15 that were surveyed, was that nationally? Or
this is national. This is
across the country?
Yes. It's across the country. And attitudes do change. As a matter of fact, and thank you for asking that question, just this morning, an associate of mine sent me some updated information that's specific to New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, which I'll share with you. It doesn't necessarily affect this, but NGOs, those non-government organizations, have always scored well. People always feel that they are the protectors of the environment, that they watch out for, they watch out against the evil doings of big business. And so NGOs always are at the top there. Individuals, and this is a really interesting one to me, is individual people throughout society. That's pretty much an even split. And what that tells me is that, and this is something to know when you're doing your green messaging, the public can't make heads or tails of what's right and what's wrong. They kind of have the basics down. You know, if I motor that's 68 years old and spewing out black smoke, that's not good because it's a very physical,